Hari Om. Hari Om. Hari Om. Hello everybody. Hard to believe, already a week since the last time. This week I talked to Maria, and after our discussion she wrote me if I could go a bit more into a subject. And the subject is, I've mentioned to her, it's not a matter of morals. We just learn to use our life force creatively, reasonably. And she would like me to expand a bit more about that. The traditions have all their whole list of morals, moral rules, what you should and should not do. And it's always connected with a lot of fear and guilt. If you are not good, no good boy, no good girl, then the fear comes, the guilt comes. It has been deeply ingrained growing up in a society that has been formed like this, getting most probably some religious teachings. It's deeply inside. Always the checking up, am I good, am I not good? With the fear in the background, there may be a punishment. That's not how the universe is working. Universe or God are not out to punish us. But then we have become so estranged from our natural way of functioning that we are doing a lot of things which invariably have negative consequences, which many times have unfavorable circumstances that we have to face. It's not that we are being punished by God. That these things are happening. When we learn to be more conscious, more self-conscious, more alive in the now, in the present, then invariably we start to recognize that many of our habitual actions, many of our habitual functionings, they are just wasting energy all the time. And then we learn not to do so anymore. Why? Not because out of some moral rule, because if we don't do that, then eventually punishment is waiting, simply because it's much more natural. If we use our life force from moment to moment creatively, consciously, then naturally there is a joyousness in it. Naturally there is a sense of beauty and adventure in it. Naturally we simply are happy. Still we may face unfavorable circumstances, but if we learn to deal with them reasonably, then they come, we deal with them, they go. It's not that we are losing much of our precious, vital energy. We are wasting energy a lot by resisting, by not wanting things to be the way they are. And then we face unfavorable circumstances and we blow up, react in ways that just a lot of energy is gone, and mainly after the events are gone, still they turn around in the head and we keep up mustering up those same emotions and investing a lot of vitality in it. And then of course we feel drained and have the tendency to be gloomy and getting depressive. If we learn not to do so anymore, out of our own free decision, and not because we are afraid of any punishment that eventually should come, but simply because it totally makes sense not to be wasteful, to let that beautiful, vital energy flow naturally. Then we just live happily. And it's natural to be happy. It's natural to be joyous. Most probably those rules of behavior, they serve their purpose. Without them, people would behave even worse. But from the spiritual standpoint, from the standpoint of being self-aware, this motivation of behaving somewhat properly out of fear, and because it's a moral rule, is sort of totally gross. And it leaves us on a not nice place. We can leave that behind and just start to become aware what is happening in the present moment. When we observe, when we see, naturally we start to, often against our liking, see how much time we unnecessarily just invest so much vitality, so strong emotions. That doesn't make sense at all. And then we learn not to do that anymore. Incidentally, people who observe somebody who is doing that introspection and learns to change because of it, they may think he or she become a much more moral person. But it has nothing to do with morality. It simply has to do that it makes sense, because then we can be natural, naturally happy, naturally joyous, naturally creative. Then life becomes what it is meant to be, a playful, joyous journey through this crazy time-space continuum, getting richer for the experience with every moment. Okay, Maria, I hope your doubts have been answered about the subject. So I'm calling that anybody who wants to say something, please come in. Not quite now. What is happening right now is that there is so much of fear that has been created by the media. And of course, when there is fear, it's like the consciousness is getting smaller. I mean, consciousness essentially cannot get smaller, but the action radius is getting smaller. And there is so much fear, then after that, the clarity of thinking disappears. And people reacting in funny ways. We have had a few examples talking to people in the West, people who usually used to be reasonably reasonable. And as soon as their fears are a bit questioned, and you try to tell them, look, there is no point of being afraid like this, people getting terribly aggressive about it. Let's not buy into that story that has been created. The current that is so foreign, so strong and easy to join. Become aware that in you there is that center, that aspect of you that is not affected by any of this. Bring the attention back to that again and again, whenever you remember. Get rooted into that. Leave from that perspective, leave from that awareness. And then fear cannot come close. Momentarily, maybe a passing emotion, it comes, it goes, it doesn't leave a trace. And everyone who is doing so is automatically influencing others around that are nearby, and others that are connected energetically, even if they are physically far away. And ultimately, everyone is influencing everyone, but especially those who are close. And if we learn not to get into that current of fear, to learn to be joyous and courageous in the now, being aware that there is something that is totally invulnerable. Nothing can touch that, nothing can hurt them, nothing can destroy them. The more we live from that standpoint, the more something beautiful radiates. And all the others are also benefiting. Live like beacons of light in that period of darkness. Okay, my friends, there I'm talking again. Is there anybody who would like to come in? Please come.
Hello, Werner. Ah, okay.
Yeah, it's okay. Helen, come.
Yeah, I just wanted to say thank you for what you've been talking about, because especially here with my mum who has dementia, kind of fear level is really high, and I feel like pick up this kind of madness. Just I feel my head pounding in my ears, and I sat yesterday and she interrupted me in the middle of my meditation, and I had just asked, who am I? Who is this one? Who is this one who is turning? Who is this one who is speeding? and momentarily it's like I just it changed everything.
Yeah.
And my mother interrupted me, and instead of being angry with the interruption, like it was strong enough, the investigation was strong enough for me to be able to go downstairs, and my heart flooded with compassion for everyone who's fearful and mad. And yeah, and so it ties in with what you were saying, and I just wanted to say it is really helpful because
right. It's good to remind yourself again and again. Sometimes for a moment we may lose it, but then
yes,
remind again. And the more you have experience, as you are describing now, the surer you are about it and the more powerful it becomes.
yeah, because my mind is really funny. It says, oh yeah, I know that. Oh yeah, I know that. And it's like when I actually do it, well, it's not even a doing. It's, you know, when I just hold it for a while, I don't know what happens, but it works. Yeah.
Right. And what you're just told now is actually it's quite important. In the mind, we have very much the tendency about a lot of things to, when the thought comes or when somebody tells it or you hear it somewhere, I know that, I have heard that many times, I know that. But having the idea in the head is one thing, but going the way is another thing.
Yes, yes.
Right.
Yes.
Right.
Yeah, yeah. And I thank you for these reminders, you know, also like every week, because the pull of this unconscious fears and all this stuff and the mind, it's very strong. So to come back to this right remembrance, I just want to say thank you.
You're welcome. And it's true, it's strong, it's enormous, it's crazy right now. But nevertheless, so much more the reason not to get in, pulled into it.
Yeah, because it's crazy, and it's such a sense of gratitude when to pull out.
Yeah, wonderful, nice.
Yeah. So, Hari Om.
Hari Om, Hari Om. It seems.
Sorry.
Yeah.
Sorry.
Yeah. I just wanted to say, it seems that when Helen came in, somebody wanted to come in, but there you are. It's Moksha. Huh? Now I see you. Yes. Hello.
Yes. Hello, Werner. Yeah, I also first want to say thank you, because it is so beautiful to be in your satsang, and it is doing so good. All this madness, and then to hear something really helpful and healthy. So thank you for that.
You're welcome.
Yeah, it's great. And I want to say just what you said to Helen, to have it in your mind is one thing, but to live it is another thing, right? And it feels to me, now I do this cold water stuff, like I become aware of what is, I would say, I call it what is in the system. You know, you can have the knowledge about freedom in your head, but in the body, it is amazing what of stuff is going on there.
Yeah.
And now I am with this cold water stuff, and what is the most important, almost, I would say, is relaxation.
Yes.
If you come in a situation and you start to relax, this is it.
Yes.
And then what is coming up in the body, wow. And it is exactly what you say. You said something like in the head is one thing, and then you said?
But to really, I don't know what I said. To really go the way.
Yes.
Yeah.
And I feel it is, sometimes I have a little pain in the back, not much, but I feel now I'm relaxing into it and breathing. I feel there is such a tension in the back. And if you start relaxing, there is happening something.
Yes.
And it takes its time, just go on, and with knowing only, it's the first step. But yeah, it is amazing. It's amazing.
And what you are experiencing now with that strong confrontation when you go into icy cold water, actually the same thing happens to various degrees in every life situation.
Exactly this. And if I learn in the cold water to relax, and also in Corona, relax, job, relax.
Yeah.
That's actually the art of life, isn't it?
Yes.
What can happen if you can relax?
Yes.
What's the problem?
No problem.
No problem. We have to die. Relax. It is amazing, right?
Yeah. Thanks God that we don't have to stick it out forever and ever in this world.
Yes. Yeah, right. Although I must say, also Corona, for me, it makes such things clear that I'm really happy with it.
Yeah.
With my children and school and blah, blah, blah. I less and less take it serious. And let's, with other words, relax, you know.
Yeah.
And this is just what if my children are losing things in school, or maybe they learn to less and blah. Yeah, you drive yourself crazy. And I see, so what? And I feel I'm starting more and more relaxing. And I found out, what does my children more need than relaxation?
Yeah.
If they have money, a good job or not, if they can relax, what's the problem?
Yeah.
So, no problem. Yeah.
Actually, it has. For many, many people, it has been a very lucky break in their life situation. Although, as long as there is resistance, then everybody suffers from it. As long as we think it's terrible, I don't want it, it's forced on me, then of course it seems to be terrible. But so many people have experienced what you said, actually, oh, for the first time since long time, they had time for themselves. And it started to give them the possibility to develop a very, very different quality of life, of the experience from moment to moment. So there is something very negative happening, but there is something also very beautiful, positive happening.
And I can see also these things, what they're doing, and how the police is dealing with it. I found it madness. But
yes.
Also there, okay, madness is there. I'm totally not agreeing with it, but relax, relax. And that is great, right?
Yes, right.
Because the tension, yeah, that is the opposite, right?
Yeah. And this tension has been created by all this fear. And it can function only as long as people stay in that fear and tension. If people would relax, then the whole thing would be over.
Also, what you said about guilt.
Yeah.
I am not so on the surface. It feels like, oh, I'm not so into this guilt stuff.
No.
But I see a few layers down.
Yeah.
If I do an exercise, I have to do it good, and otherwise, instead of, hey, you do it, if it's good or not, you try again. If this guilt is going, then it is joy, even if it's not working. Oh, I tried to hold my breath for a minute. Oh, it doesn't work today. So what? But there is also there, it always has to be good, better, and otherwise it's not good, you know?
Yeah, yeah.
Stress. And just relax.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then the message in Satsang, it is just pure medicine. against all this madness, right? The madness outside, the madness inside.
Yeah.
Yeah. And to share this in the satsang with all these people, it is just medicine and joy.
Very
Yeah.
good.
Thank you very much, Werner. No?
You're welcome.
And
Hari
hope
Om.
to see you again. Hari Om. Hari
Hari
Om.
Om. Hari Om. Is there anybody else who would like to come in?
Good morning, Werner.
Hello, Klaus.
Sorry for my camera. I think it's a bit
You
dusty or something
are
like
very
that.
well visible.
Okay, that's good.
Yeah.
Yeah, I was curious about your view about the spiritual insights, because I had an experience on Sunday where I was just lying down and relaxing, and I had this thought that I had to go through so much to gain wisdom, but I saw that it was not true, so it just collapsed. And in that collapsing, it seemed like also some energy field of thinking was collapsing, like it was almost like the time dimension just collapsed. So it was almost like the form of thought changed, so it's not so, the energy has changed in the thought, in the thinking, it feels like. So
Yeah.
Can you elaborate on this?
You were saying that basically you had always that feeling you have to go through so much trouble in order to get somewhere spiritually.
Yeah,
Is
wisdom.
that
And
what you said? Huh?
yes,
Yeah,
yes.
yeah. And suddenly it felt, no, it's not true. All the wisdom, all the beauty, everything we are looking for is here now. If we stop covering it up. Of course, as long as the habits of thinking, feeling, functioning is in a certain way and very strong, then we don't get around a certain rubbing on it in order to detach from it. But it's not that it's just the nature of spiritual achievement that you have to go through terrible, terrible, terrible things. Ultimately, there's nothing to achieve. It's coming home, seeing what is anyhow there. The achievement is more to get rid of all that we have created that is standing in the way. And as long as the conviction is there, it's very difficult, then it's also very difficult. And even if we have then that insight, like you had at that moment, no, it's not true, it's not difficult. Actually, it's totally easy if you're not sabotaging it all the time, then the old habit will still come in and do this sabotaging, and there we have to somehow take care of that it's not getting stronger again, but see it, observe it, and learn to not feed it, and then gradually it fades away by itself. But basically, what is needed is not difficult. But then at the same time, it needs patience, that the experience comes and getting stronger and is getting deeper, just because all those layers of covering up that beauty of existence, they are there in place because we have been strengthening them for a long time. And even if we have the insight, it's not difficult, that's good. And it's good to remember, it's not difficult, but still we have to go about it, to observe and see how our attention is wavering away, wandering away from it, how our attention is wavering, how we are having the tendency to, in spite of that, create again obstacles instead of removing that we have to do, that observation, and learn to let go. But it's not really difficult. It's not a difficult process. It's not a terrible thing we have to go through. So we don't have to artificially create difficulties. Those that are already hanging there to come, they are enough.
Yeah, I had that feeling that I had to, like all these things I had to learn to be free.
Yes.
So, but I saw through that. So I just saw that the wisdom is always here. You don't have to experience anything either to be wise. You are already wise from the start. So it was great. It changed something in a very beautiful way. But it still can come some thinking, but it has not the same level of energy in it right now. It's just much more seen as it is, and it's not creating a story on the story either. It's more like an empty something empty, like an empty box, or
Yeah.
So,
And if there sometimes come moments where it seems to be disappearing, it's very helpful that you remember what you understood, what you felt, what you experienced at that time. And that very memory will inspire you at that moment where it seems to be more difficult to go about it again more relaxedly.
Yeah, because I feel like, okay, I saw this, so I just want to keep this, because it's it seemed like it was a key, so I just want to to hold it, so I always can use it when I get into this thought trouble.
Right. And it will also be with you, even if sometimes temporary, momentary, it seems it has disappeared, it's still there. Once you really profoundly get what you are talking about, then even if it's momentarily pushed aside again, then it's easier to get in touch with it again. You just have to go along with the flow of the life. And then the experience will start to expand all by itself. The wisdom is getting deeper all by itself. More and more we're becoming aware, it's bubbling up out of our own self, out of our own resources. We don't have to go somewhere and look for it.
Yeah, I see some changes already. Suddenly I start to bake cakes, and I have never done that before.
Very good.
Okay, thank you, Werner.
You're welcome. Hari
Hari
Om.
Om.
Hari Om. Is there anybody else who would like to come? Please come.
Hello, Werner.
Hello. Here, now I see you. Hello, Cyril.
Wait, I don't see me. I don't. Where am I?
But I see you. I see you.
Okay, good.
Yeah.
Hello. Werner, I was thinking about. I have a question. It's far from what we're talking about, but it's going through my mind. I want to ask you. I mean, you have already been asked this question, but what are CDs?
Cities. Yeah.
So you know, I live with the guru Aja.
Yeah.
He was a very simple man.
Yeah.
He was a farmer. He had a family, children. Right. He was married. Okay. Then at 36, he became very, very ill. A lot of pain.
Yeah.
Then after 6 months, he did this work on himself. I don't know what. But then he emerged and say, the one who was there is not there anymore. It's a new one.
Right.
Then he went wandering naked on the street. They put him in a psychiatric hospital.
I see.
Then after 6 months, they say he's not crazy. Then they release him. Then he went to the Himalaya. He had an attendant, a Muslim man. And then after, when I met him, he never showed anything, of course. He was 90 years old. But what he was doing sometime was, we could see. He healed me, he healed all the people. And it was amazing, the power he had to change people's life. And how could you, what is there? How could you explain such a level of consciousness to go from a farmer to have this kind of power? Yeah. Which, one more time, he never show anything.
Yeah. It's there in everyone. Be you a professor or a farmer or a floor sweeper. It has nothing to do with your status in society. That potential is in everyone. And somehow in his story, it was obviously not far away, and what all that it needed, that his belief system had to break down through his severe illness, that after that crash, then he could emerge with a totally different consciousness. Right. And the more one is rooted and doesn't disturb that, the more the power that is manifesting is simply increasing with every moment. Like people thought that some people think, like some of Ramana Maharshi's devotees think that he had his big change when he was a young boy, and that was the end of the story. No, that was the beginning of his story, of his real story. And he went deeper and deeper. And naturally, what was manifested through the intensity that he was living here, it became more and more powerful. It's not that he did something in order to gain more power. It's simply, if we don't disturb it, if we invite it by simply being in touch with that essential existence and learn to be totally relaxed in it, then this is happening all by itself. So Aja didn't show any cities, and still you think he was healing people?
I mean, he healed me. I thought it was due to the food.
Yeah.
But I had lot of digestive trouble since months.
Yeah, right.
And I thought, oh, this food is wonderful. But what I noticed, then the next day he went to an Ayurvedic doctor,
yeah,
which he never did. Then there is this other woman. She thought in the night something was going out of his belly.
Yeah.
And then it goes out. Many examples of that. Many examples. Yeah. Just right. A man, John, a friend, he was working and he was very tired, and he started to be stressed, and then he was hot, and suddenly he felt really, really relaxed and fresh. Yeah. And he just turned, and Aja was just going away from him, you know.
Yeah, yeah.
And I saw people, it changed people's lives. I mean, it was amazing. He could change people's lives.
Right.
And but it could be, you know, it could be both. It could be like a king, or it could be like a beggar.
Yeah.
You know, it could be sitting on the floor in some place and listening to what people were talking about him without any different from a beggar. Yeah. And yeah. Then on the other side, he could be, so he was an avadut.
Yeah.
But I'm not, I want to, yeah, I'm listening to what you are saying.
I'm sure Aja didn't think he's going around and healing people, but he somehow that healing aspect obviously had become very strong, because that's why somehow he changed over, that from a severe illness, then somehow he had to heal from that. And essentially everything is the same, but of course there are different aspects to it, different manifestations, and obviously it was simply naturally there, that healing power. But I don't think that he went round and thought he is healing people, but simply people connecting with him through his intensity. They started to connect with their own healing power, because it's new. So what he did, what happened near him is that you were pushed more into your own resources. I mean, I don't know. Maybe sometime in certain situations he saw something and he did something. That's possible.
Yes.
But but with a guy like this, it just starts to happen around them, because you also have that healing power in you. Everybody has, and if that is very strongly manifested with one you are close to, then somehow that connects you with your own resource. Ramana was very strictly against any manifestation of cities, but people tell all kinds of miraculous stuff happened around him, but he never took credit for it. Now, you asked, what is a city? Now, in the tradition, some people, they run after cities, but many of the spiritual traditions, they rather warn, don't go after cities, you will miss the place.
I agree with you. I agree.
Right, but actually, what is a city? A city is nothing else but an ability. And it's nothing good or bad, it's neutral. It's simply, if the sadhak starts to think of developing powers, then he has the tendency not at all to get rid of that sense of separation of me and the others, but wants to develop powers that to make the me stronger.
I agree.
Yes. That's why it's recommended not to go after cities, but basically you can say any ability is a city. But if many people have it, then it's nothing extraordinary. You can say driving a car is a city, but billions of people are driving cars, so nobody comes after you and says, oh, it's fantastic that you can drive a car. If it's getting more rare, it's already more tricky. If you are a very good musician, for example, much less people are good musicians than people who can drive a car. So there comes already the temptation. A good musician, if he learns to connect with his essence, with the self, then his art becomes something beautiful, wonderful. Then it's just an expression of that inner beauty that flows through his music, his or her music, into this world.
Okay. Yeah.
But many people will come and say, oh, it's so fantastic how you can make music, and the temptation is there to get arrogant about it, which is counterproductive to self-realization. The more we get arrogant and have great ideas about me as a person, the more we also strengthen that sense of separation. And then if you could do so-called miracles, then of course people are even much more impressed. If suddenly you could float in the midair and in front of people, then of course people are totally out of their mind and say, oh, this is fantastic. And the temptation to get sucked into that personal self-importance, it's even much greater. It's not because cities, the abilities that are there are basically something bad. Have you heard all that I said? Because there was a little glitch.
Yeah. No, I still can follow.
Yeah, it's not that they are intrinsically bad. It's simply in the present situation, as humanity exists, it's tricky if one tries to develop city, because the temptation, if you succeed, the temptation is so great to get self-important about it instead of making it into an instrument that your inner divinity can express itself.
Yeah. And I'm not talking about like an Imtaroli Baba who could read the mind of people very easily. He could say, this I didn't meet him, so I don't know. But I know about Aja. You know, I was a witness. I could see. You know, I'm not talking about things that I was not present.
Yeah.
And people are, but Aja, I was present, and I could feel what was going on. Even at the level of the energy, it's just the energy when I came into this place, the energy was so subtle and so incredible, you know.
Yeah.
Then I felt, well, there is, even before meeting him, you know, there was something special. Anyway, so yeah.
And this is happening. He was not a sadhak who was doing years and years of rigorous practice.
No.
He just found himself in a new perspective. And then in that new perspective, that old mechanism to create always personal tensions and all that was not there. And then simply by being, this intensity started to happen all by itself. It would happen to every one of us if we stop creating obstacles, if we stop creating with the mind all that stuff. I want it, I don't want it, I want this, I want that, I need this, I need that. But just learn to be. And then the experience and the power of it will start to unfold all by itself.
Yes. Well, the only thing, you know, it's India also. And there was a connection with Nityananda from Ganesh Puri.
Right.
Nityananda had done his practice about 40 kilometers from there. He was not there anymore. But after some year in 62, Nityananda called Aja. Aja was in the Himalaya and he heard a voice say, "Come, I am in Ganesh Puri." Yeah. Then he went to Ganesh Puri, and they say at that time Aja had many trouble functioning with the body.
Yeah,
he couldn't function with the body. There was like a handicap. Then Nityananda bring him back in the body. They didn't say much thing, but there was this connection with this great master, which is Nityananda.
I see. Yeah.
So I think it's also connecting with this amazing magical power of India. What's happening in India, you know?
It can happen anywhere.
I don't know.
It's just happening a bit more often in India, but it can happen anywhere. Even in France.
People say India is the magical center of the world.
Yes,
and I believe in it.
But you are the magical center of the world. Your own self.
Well, you know, we start to talk about that. You are near Arunachala. So
right. Somehow it happened that I'm near Arunachala. It would be, it would talk the same if I was not. But right, I agree. In India, it's manifesting more frequent, but it's not that it's happening only in India. And it's a worldwide awakening. It will be more and more and more everywhere. Once the madness is over.
Yes. yes. I hope so. I hope
Yeah.
so. Yeah, yeah. Okay, thank you, Werner. Thank you.
You're welcome. Hariom. Hariom.
Hariom. Hariom.
Hariom, Werner.
Hello, Ben.
Hi.
Hello.
I'm here with some friends today.
Yeah.
And I have a question. What would you maybe recommend to someone who's been recently diagnosed with kind of a disease, a quite like something like cancer, and whether on how to deal with it or how to find solutions?
I mean, we can talk about it, but I cannot give you a standard way to go about it. When somebody is in that situation and asks me, then it comes spontaneous according to that person. I cannot say basically if somebody asks what you do when you have cancer, then you have to do like this and like this and like this.
Right.
The most important thing is that when somebody approaches you like that, that you remain as centered in yourself as good as you can. The more you are capable of doing that, the more you will be empathic and in tune with the other person, and then your way of talking and replying to their questions will come spontaneous, automatic.
Mm-hmm.
But anyhow.
Yes. So hello everyone.
Oh,
It's
I see. It's
me.
It's your question. Yes.
Yeah.
Right.
My name is Carla, and yeah, it's been I think 3 weeks, and I'm still processing. There's like
Yes.
many things, and I'm very focused on the emotional and energetic side of it.
Right.
I'm taking care of my body, and I'm taking care also of my spirit. I have like my meditation practice is even more than before, and I'm like doing my sports, more yoga, I'm more focused on myself. But I'm still feel that it's going to be a long process, since I don't want to rush into any Western solution right away. So yeah, mostly more than a question, I think it's like, what are your thoughts about it? If you have like maybe met people that are in this situation, I'm still, I think I haven't been depressed or like sad about it. It arrived into my life, so I receive it, and I'm embracing the process and enjoying this moment to take care of myself.
Right. Of course, if suddenly you get diagnosed like this, then it will shake you up. you can't help it. That somehow certainly a new aspect is brought into that whole stability of your experience, that and it's connected to a worldwide terror of that diagnosis, that you are diagnosed like this. But I see that you are treating it very positively. Continue like this. Don't get into that fear of it. And if the fear comes, then don't fight it. Then let the fear come consciously. When you are aware. As long as we are not aware, nothing can be done. But when you are aware, there is actually a lot of fear connected also, then let sometimes really come that fear. Let it be here. Feel it in your body, how it feels. Feel what it is doing to you physically, energetically, emotionally. And automatically, when you observe the emotion in that way, you become aware, okay, but there is something that is not affected by it. There is the object of observation, the fear, the manifestation of fear, how it feels, but there is something that is observing. And that is a part of you that is absolutely unaffected by anything. no matter what disease that is ravaging the body, whatever is happening to the mind, there is something totally unmovable in you. And the more you are capable of connecting with that, the less terrible it seems. And the more is also the possibility that it may also get healed in a natural process. There was an Indian yogi, Shiva Puri Baba, and he was initiated by his grandfather when he was a child, and then his grandfather died, and he went and lived in the forest and just by himself went through his yogic path, and then his grandfather had left him a fortune and said, once you are through your sadhana, you have to walk around the world. And he literally did that. I mean, he didn't walk on the sea, but wherever he could walk, he walked. He spent a lot of time, when he came to England, he spent a lot of time with Queen Victoria, but then he came back to India, and then he went to Nepal. And he was supposedly already 112 years old when he was diagnosed cancerous. And then they came with all kinds of medicines, and he said, okay, try, and with all the medicines they brought, they couldn't do anything. The cancer was getting worse. And at a certain point he said, look, now I'm fed up with you and your cures and your medicine. I'm going to cure myself. And had just put his attention that he's going to get healed. And the cancer disappeared. And supposedly he was living till he was 136.
Thank you.
We have that potential to heal ourselves. Nothing wrong taking help if something comes naturally, but if you don't feel like going into the usual kind of treatment with chemo and radiation and all that stuff, then I wish you great success with it. You have the potential in you.
Thank you very much. I'm on it.
If you continue with that positive attitude, this is wonderful. And just for the sake of argument, even if that disease would stay there, eventually you would die from it. If you can go through it for the period that remains for you with that positive attitude, you gain so much wealth out of it that is with you, that you will take with you. The wealth that we are gaining here on this level, in one moment, it's all gone. Not one single penny we can take along. But that wealth that you accumulate, really, that is there wherever you go, whatever is happening when you get out of this life, you take it along. And the more you are capable to keep up that creative, that positive, beautiful attitude you have, the more you are benefiting from all the difficulties that you are facing, that you are going through.
Thank you so much.
I wish you well.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Is there anybody else who would like to come? We still have quite some time.
Yeah, hello.
Hello, I hear a hello.
Yes. You see me?
Who is it?
Anita.
Oh, now I see you. Hello, Anita.
Hello. I have two subjects, but let's see, maybe I do only one. It's about fear. And I had a time in my life where there would come fear just out of nowhere and without reason.
Yeah.
And it was, yeah, it was not nice. It was very big and very threatening.
Yes.
But it would disappear. It would never stay for a long time, but it would be very strong. And then I found a way how to get rid of it, just by simply putting my focus to something, anything else.
Yeah.
And then it was gone for a long time. And just a few days ago, I had this fear again. I don't know if it was triggered through this. I did a mantra, the Mahamrityunjaya, and then in bed, I still had this mantra in my mind, and suddenly this fear came, and I had some images, I can't even say what it was, but the feeling of overwhelming fear was there. And then I just had the idea to change and do the Gayatri mantra, and then it immediately was gone. But I wonder what this fear is, and if it's just in everybody, it's just the fear of death maybe. I guess that's the biggest fear, I don't know. And but maybe it would be better, like you also say, to dive into it, or to see who is afraid, and the next time how to not run away in focusing on something else, but to, what would you say?
The mantra you used was that the Triambakam Yajamahe and so and so. Huh? Yeah. And you know that it is often used here in India when people die.
Yeah.
Right, to help them cross over.
Yes,
or
yes.
it's used to help people to heal.
Yes.
Right, but often also it's used when somebody is died, and then in the ceremony when they are being burned, to help them to let go of this level and to smoothly cross over. And I think subconsciously you were aware of that, and you're busy with that mantra, and somehow that confronted you suddenly again very strong with that fact that eventually, sooner or later, we get out of this world, so-called die. And there is a tremendous fear attached to that around the world. And you are right. Basically, all the other fears come out of that fear. At the end, it's always fear of dying. After all, what is dying? Dying is simply that something is finished. You never die. Nothing dies. But then somehow for the mind, it's fearful to think that something is finished and that there is something unknown waiting after that. Is there anything? What is there? And so somehow this fear came up. Since you were doing this mantra, most probably it reminded you that it is used often in that context. And as soon as you started to chant the Gayatri mantra, then it was better. Nothing wrong if that moment is overwhelming, if you do such a thing. You chant the Gayatri mantra or in any other way, and if you feel fine, fine. You can also consciously accept, okay, let me face that fear. And if we don't resist the fear, then it seems for a moment it may get worse. The emotion gets stronger. And there you can take the liberty, if you feel it's getting too much, then it's okay, fine, that you find your way out. You, for the time being in this session, I did enough. And then next time it comes back, you can start again. Okay, let's accept the fear. Not fight the fear, not struggle against the fear, not being overwhelmed by the fear, but just accept, okay, fear is here. Let me see what that fear does, really. Because most of the time we have no idea what what an emotion is doing on all the levels. We have to learn to put our attention and just watch in the body what is happening when that fear is there. How certain parts invariably are starting to get cramped up, and gradually the whole body gets cramped up. And there you can learn to relax. Instead of struggling with fear, you just go on the physical level and see the effect of the fear and start to relax. And the more you are capable of doing so, the more the emotion also starts to come down. We are increasing our emotions, we are increasing our fears, because then we are struggling with it and we think of some subject or other that makes us afraid, and it's getting bigger and bigger. And also by fighting it. But if you simply accept and observe, then you are not nourishing it anymore, and then gradually it's getting less. And for the time being, at least, it may suddenly disappear. The tendency to have that fear will not be gone because of doing that 1 or 2 or 3 times. It will still be there. The fear may come back, but gradually you can easier and easier learn to deal with the emotion like this, by not fighting it, by accepting it, by watching what it is doing to your experience right now. And you start on the easiest level, on the physical level.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, but mostly it is so strong and so big that there's no space for me to
observe.
Yeah, to handle it. I think it just happened that I switched over, put the attention again on something else, because I did that in the past when it used to come more often. I thought afterwards, how could I deal with it? And then I told myself, do that, and the next time I could do that. And yeah, because it's so big, I had some other kind of also fear connected thing that would happen to me, that I would lay in bed and my body gets totally stiff and I can't move it. And I would feel like it's expanding. I would get bigger and bigger, and then it was like just big fear that I don't know, I explode or something. And that I used to have when I was living on the countryside in Denmark. I don't know, it was only happening there. It was so big nature, something like that. I don't know. And then I asked my friend at the time, what can I do? And he said, just dive into it. But I forgot always, and I got panic, and then I was out of it. And one time I could remember, and I dived into it. It was just blissful. I don't know what happened, but it was great. But this is a kind of similar thing. It's so strong and so big that there is no like, now I remember who I am.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, as long as you are just totally overwhelmed and you completely forget everything, there nothing can be done. But if that remembrance comes, then you can try. But if you see it's too much, then you have perfectly the right at that time not to confront it and just somehow find a way for the time being to get out. And then maybe you wait until it comes back the next time, and the next time it goes a bit easier, but maybe not, and you go out again. But you can also do one thing, that you don't wait until it comes so overwhelming. And sometimes you just sit down and say, okay, now I'm going to deal with my fear, at least to some degree. But then you remember how you felt when the fear was there. And some of that fear comes back. but it may not come so totally overwhelming. And then you can deal with it easier. That sometimes that you consciously open up and say, okay, somehow or sooner or later I have to deal with my fear, so let me right now open up and let that emotion come and let that emotion manifest itself. And if you do it like this, it's like you can dose it to an intensity that you can deal with it without it just blasting you away.
Yeah.
And if it's even if then suddenly it gets stronger and stronger and you feel, oh, it's getting too much, then you still can use your old used devices how to redirect the attention that for the time being you just push it away again. And if you learn to in doses to deal with the fear, then gradually it's getting easier, and especially you lose the fear of the fear. You are not more afraid of being afraid, because that is the really biggest obstacle. Then from your experience, you know that sometimes that fear can come heavy, and then there is a certain fear of that fear, a fear that fear comes. And if you learn to invite consciously sometimes fear and deal with it, then you lose the fear of the fear. And then half of the job is already done.
Yeah, good idea. Yeah, thank you.
It's not the most pleasant of exercises to invite emotions that we don't like, but they are very useful. And you have then you have the choice how deep you want to go, how long you want to be with it, and then push it away again, without getting just from one moment to the other blasted away.
Yeah, I'll try that.
And eventually you will find out it's nothing terrible. No emotion is basically terrible. The whole terrible thing is what we are constructing around it. But if we are capable of just seeing the emotion, letting it come, emotions, they are always in waves. They are not stable. They come, they have a peak, they go. And if an emotion come and we are not being overwhelmed by it, and we are not running away from it, and we are not fighting it, but accepting, then emotions, there is nothing wrong with it. They come, they go, and in a way they are enriching the life. And even those emotions that we think they are negative emotions, if we learn to be detached from them, then they are not more terrible. They are just terrible as long as we are positively or negatively attached to them, and then they get out of hand and become destructive sometimes.
Right. Okay.
All right. Good luck. You can always ask again if there is a problem with that. Huh? You're welcome.
Thank you. Hari Om.
Hari Om. Hari Om. As long as we are appearing in a human form, the whole range of emotion as a possibility is there. And there is nothing wrong with it. Simply, they have, in a way, their level, their place. And if, as long as they are functioning on that level, they come, they go. They are bringing a certain juice to life. Simply with emotions, we have the tendency that we have been fighting them, feeding them, being attached to them. Those we like, we are attached because we don't want to let them go. Those we don't like, we are attached because we don't want them. And in that way, we make emotions strong, totally out of proportion. If we stop doing that, there's nothing wrong with the different types of emotions that can come and go. They come and go. And they are all right. And then even negative emotions, which we thought that they feel horrible, they are horrible. When we are not more attached and accept them, then suddenly we can enjoy even those emotions. And they are just waves, and we don't make them into destructive tsunamis. All right, we have still some time. Is there anybody who would like to come in? Please come in.
Hello, Werner.
Hello, Dial.
I want to ask you about, I come across in the internet, not personally, this group of people, they call them autonom. They not eating at all, not drinking anything, even water, and they are not sleeping. Actually, it's very few people who can do that for a few years, maybe 1 year, 2 years, and another people trying to do the same. And they do it for special state of mind. They said it's kind of liberation, kind of enlightenment. I'm not sure, is it real enlightenment or just kind of state of mind because of they not eating, not drinking, not sleeping. And maybe it's one of the spiritual way. What do you think about such a renunciation, not eating, not drinking, not sleeping? How do you think, will it work if someone will try to do that?
It can, but I think for very few. You must be really the type that this fits for you. And then if you have the necessary willpower to pull through, then it may help you to go into levels that you can really live like this, that you don't need to eat and sleep. But people who are not necessarily that type and they try, they will struggle and struggle and struggle and put in a big effort trying to get closer to that goal of not eating and sleeping. And I think they could use their time and their energy and their effort much more useful. For somebody to whom this is right, they feel that's their way, that's their path, I do believe this is possible. But there are very few people for whom this is really the right approach. And it will come spontaneous and without a tremendous sacrifice in their mind, but it's just something they resonate to and are pulled to, and then it works. But if in the mind we think, okay, all I have to do is to stop eating and stop sleeping and stop drinking, and then I'm getting enlightened, then, I mean, invariably, people will get weak very quickly, and it's going to be a hell of a struggle, and most of the people wouldn't survive it very, very long. And even if you somehow manage to survive for quite a while, it's just a hell of a struggle, just not eating and not drinking and not sleeping completely, the mind will be completely off being self-aware. It's then just the psychophysical struggle. And you could use that in the long run. You certainly get something out of it. In this world, not a drop of our efforts, not a drop of whatever we have gone through is wasted. Somewhere it's accumulating something very precious. But I think you could accumulate that same intensity simply by being alert in the present without all these exaggerated practices of not more eating and drinking and sleeping and trying to keep you awake.
Yeah, okay, I understand. Yeah, and actually I find out that happening with the people who was success for some long time because of they try to do some practice. One person said he was serious sportsman, but he tried to do qigong, yeah? And he was doing it really seriously, like 3 hours standing and practicing qigong, and he get such abilities they don't need any food for a few years. Then he started eating again, and he brings some philosophy to it. But some people said, no need any meditation, nothing needed, just start fasting few days, more and more, and you will get it. So maybe it's a wrong attitude. Meditation or energy practice always needed. What do you think about that?
You cannot say it's always needed. But somebody who just stops eating and tries not to sleep, somehow, if they don't do any energetic practice, if they don't do something very disciplined with their mind, when they stop eating will just start to race and race. So you may not need to do a formal practice, but somehow those who succeed in this kind of undertakings, they do have some kind of a practice, even if they don't say they do a formal practice, but they have some way of connecting with themselves, with their own resources, and learn to relax in it, otherwise their mind would blow up.
Okay, I see it's more clearly.
The practices, the essence of all practices is that we find a way to connect with the source, with that which makes the experience possible. No matter what practice we are doing, the practice in itself is a crutch for the mind to make it easier to connect. And so if somebody can connect consciously without any formal external practice, then that's their practice, their natural practice. And if somebody has that capacity of being self-aware, then their fasting and their not sleeping may go very far. When I started out in India and I read that Ramana was once asked somewhere that, Bhagavan, is it true if we fast for 30 days completely, after that the mind will become quiet and remain quiet? And Ramana said, yes, it's true if you are capable of doing the inquiry the whole time. So, but it has been troubling me in the beginning a lot. I should maybe try to fast for 30 days and then my mind becomes quiet. And I know of a number of others, they quoted that to me and they said, I want to fast, I want to try it. But they always forgot what Ramana said. Okay, it's true if you are capable to be in self-inquiry throughout the time. The tendency is if one is doing these extreme things, that after that the mind starts racing. And there we are not getting very far.
Okay, thank you. It's more clearly now.
Yeah. I recommend that you still continue eating and sleeping moderately.
Yes, I'm eating and sleeping usually. Yeah, but I sometimes going to another extreme, eating too much, yeah, sleeping too much. So that's why to find the balance more difficult than just to stop it completely for a few days.
I mean, there's nothing wrong with fast if that feels right. Sometimes it's good, sometimes it's very healthy, sometimes it's very helpful, but not from the mind only thinking I should do that, but really a feeling from deep in you that, okay, it's a good thing now to do a fast. That's a different idea that, okay, I do a fast for some time because it helps me on different levels, than to have the idea, I have to stop eating and sleeping to get enlightened.
Okay, thank you, Werner.
Okay, Hari Om, Hari Om.
Hari Om, Hari Om.
All right, my friends. I think I close the formal satsang for today. Hari Om, Hari Om, Hari Om.